So many of us live our lives striving for perfection. But what's fascinating to me is that what is this thing we call perfection? Because it's different for every single one of us. We have different boundaries, we have different expectations, we have different needs, we have different motivational drivers for things. But yet we're always searching for this perfect world, this perfect life for us to live in. So I want you to just take a moment and think about what perfection means to you. What does it look like? How does it feel? What does it make you want to do? What does it sound like? Now for me, when I used to think about perfection, to me it was this cotton candy land of beauty and bright colours and true love and people dancing and singing like a Disney musical. Perfection was that world for me, where I truly loved who I am. I loved my body. I had no hang-ups. Life was good. But when I asked you now, what does perfection mean to you? My first reaction was my chest felt tight, physically. When I think of perfection now, it fills me with dread. It fills me with anxiety. I physically feel when I talk about it now, like something's pressing down on me. Like it's keeping me tight, confined. And it's so interesting to think what I thought perfection and the perfect life looked like and what I feel towards perfection now. Perfection is like a virus. It doesn't just start one day and you suddenly, are completely overwhelmed by it. It eats away at your cells little by little. It ingrains itself within you a little bit at a time until you don't know life any other way. But the only way to cure the virus, so to speak, is to stop. Now you're probably thinking, Carla, if I just stopped being a perfectionist, I would have done it years ago. It's not that easy. And I agree with you, it's not. But STOP to me is actually an acronym. It's an acronym I like to use to describe my journey and the steps I needed to take in order to overcome my perfectionism. And these are things that I still use to this day, because 20, 30 years of my life was being a perfectionist. It's ingrained in me. It's my default. So of course, when I'm pushing out of my comfort zone, there's going to be triggers that I haven't experienced before. And the same for you. There will be triggers you haven't experienced before that will make you default back into that perfectionist mode. But these little tips and techniques that I'm going to take you through now will help you to identify when you're doing that and help you to move forward from it rather than be dragged back into it again. So stop. The S is for self-awareness. Now, without self-awareness, I am a firm believer that you will never design a life that is authentically you, designed by you, for you. Because self-awareness is at the crux of everything we need to build our self-worth, to build our self-belief, to build our confidence. What self-awareness allows you to do is to be able to identify those thoughts and actions that you do as a perfectionist. It allows you to identify them, acknowledge them, figure out where they've come from. Because with a perfectionist, those thoughts and actions, or especially the thoughts, are not real. They're a reality you've created. They're not usually the reality. So it allows you to identify, acknowledge, and move forward from them, reframe them. The T is for tenderness. Now this one I really struggled with. Because when I was working on myself and trying to overcome traumas and limiting beliefs and all of that kind of thing that was linked to my perfectionism, I used to beat myself up about beating myself up. I was trying to be perfect at overcoming my perfectionism. The irony. But again, it's my default. But tenderness is about allowing yourself that space to be kind to yourself. The space to know that these things take time. The space to let it unfold. And the tenderness as well, and the kindness to yourself to know that not every day is going to be a good day. And that's okay. Because you're going to have days where you are free and feeling alive and positive. And then you're going to have days where you're triggered. And your default perfectionism kicks in, your fears kick in. And it's hard and it's painful. But the beauty of tenderness allows you to not stay stuck there. Because if you're anything like me, once I used to get into that way of thinking, it spirals. I could take a situation where somebody said something slightly mean to me, not even that serious, and it would spiral into a thought pattern that meant I was a complete loser. I wasn't worth anything to anybody. I wasn't worth living. I would never be good enough. But being tender, being self-aware of me doing that first, and then being kind to myself and saying, it's okay. I've got you. We'll get through this. Stops that spiral. And then the O is openness. For perfectionists, saying an open perfectionist is an oxymoron, because perfection is all about a closed way of thinking. It closes you off. It boxes your life and your thoughts. And only you are allowed to let things in or let things out. Perfectionism keeps you playing small in that tiny little box, because you think that that's the only way that you're going to get to your goals and your dreams. But openness allows you to see possibilities. There are so many possibilities and opportunities around us that as a perfectionist I never saw, because I was so hell-bent on following my path. And don't get me wrong, my goals and my dreams are still just as big, still just as challenging. But now I'm less worried about how I get there. As long as I'm making strides towards it. You know, you can't sit back and just hope life will happen to you. But a perfectionist wants to control the how. And that's what keeps you closed off. So by allowing yourself to be a little bit open, you see the beauty around you. You're able to open not just to opportunities, but to love. And again, not just external love, but internal self-love. I have a little trick that I do when I can feel that I'm building that anxiety within me and I'm getting a little bit overwhelmed by something. I always take myself out of that situation if I can. So if I'm, at my laptop and feeling stressed, I just step away for a minute, take a deep breath, and then I do 5 things. I ask myself to identify 5 things that I can see, and I say them out loud to myself. Then I look at 4 things I can touch, and I physically touch them. So my jumper, my hair, can touch my nose. They don't have to be big fancy things. I can touch my tongue. So 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. And what this does is it really brings you back down to the present, to grounding. You can hear it in my voice. I've gone from a high octane to a really calm, centered place just by explaining that process to you. It allows you to see things around you, to take note, to be present. To know that as much as you're trying to control everything, things are happening without you. The wind is blowing without you. The washing machine is running without you. Okay, yes, you had to switch it on, but it's running without you. Smells are happening without you controlling them. So be open to it. Take a step back, allow yourself to be open. And finally, the P is patience. Again, perfectionism is the complete opposite to being patient. Perfectionism is impatience personified. It is impatience on a nuclear level. Because you're impatient with everything, internally and externally. Why am I not learning this quick enough? Why don't I understand this subject? Why can't I iron properly? Why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? When am I going to get that increase at work? When am I going to find that new job? When am I going to go on that holiday? When am I going to stop feeling so anxious all the time? When am I going to start living my life? When is my life going to be happy? I mean, I could go on all day. But perfectionism is impatience because we're controlling. And we feel that if we've said that we want to do something, then it should happen. But patience allows you to let things unfold in the right time. For that amazing job or business to come around when it's right for you. To allow the universe to, or God, or whatever you believe in, to deliver things when they are right for you, when you are ready for them. To bring that baby into your life when you are ready. To bring the love of your life into your life when you are ready. But patience comes with being self-aware, aware of your thoughts, your actions, being kind and tender to yourself, allowing yourself that space to just be okay. Tenderness as well Think of a 4-year-old. If they're getting really frustrated with an activity, they're painting something, it's not coming out, they're scrunching the paper, they're tearing it up, they're throwing crayons. How would you approach that 4-year-old? Would you approach them with kindness, tenderness, encouragement, compassion? Or would you approach them with anxiety and anger and impatience and yelling and pushing forward? I'd like to think that we all would approach it in the former, but we don't do that to ourselves. We do the latter. We give ourselves a hard time. We push ourselves harder. And so become self-aware. Give yourself that tenderness. Allow yourself to open up. It's a magical world out there. And then be patient. Allow this journey that you're on, this incredible life you've been given, to unfold. Put your intentions out there. Take steps and opportunities and take different paths. But have the patience to know that you are constantly growing, you are constantly evolving. I don't feel now that because I'm not I'm not an intense perfectionist that I was before, I don't feel like my job is done now. I'm constantly working on things. And like I said, there's triggers that come up in your life unexpectedly that bring all those default behaviors back in. So I stop. And I go through the 4 steps and I allow myself the space. And if I take us back to what we spoke about at the beginning when I asked you, what does perfection feel like to you? And actually, the imperfect world I'm living in, or perfect I think now, is the cotton candy world I thought. But not in the way I thought. Not in the controlling, boxed environment that I thought I needed to be in. Because now I see the colors. I see the opportunities. I see the way I'm growing as a person every single day. So I leave you with that today.